Hi everyone, welcome to The Print. Well, the big news coming in today is about the return of the odd-even policy in the national capital. We will be taking questions live on our YouTube as well as Facebook page. This isn't the first time that the odd-even policy is being implemented in the national capital. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal a while ago addressed the media at the Delhi Secretariat and said that the odd-even scheme would be implemented from November 4th to November 15th, which is a month and a half away. Of course, this is the third time that will be implemented in the national capital. Earlier in January 2016, it was implemented from January 1st to January 15th. Post that, it was re-implemented in April as well for 15 days. Of course, there were mixed reactions coming in, while critics did say that it didn't lead to too much of a reduction in the pollution levels, while there were others. Several surveys conducted by the Delhi government, as they claim, said that perhaps it did lead to a dip in the pollution levels. The Chief Minister clearly citing today that they had called in for a lot of suggestions from the public, about what measures should be taken since Diwali is around the corner in October next month. And a lot of people said that they were willing to listen, they were willing not to burn firecrackers as long as there was an alternate measures, which is why it's interesting to note that the Chief Minister had even pointed this out in December earlier last year, that if need be, the odd-even scheme would be implemented again. I will be taking questions shortly as well on the sidebar. In fact, there are a couple of questions that have already started coming in. Before I take those questions, I just want to tell everyone, just to tell you what exactly does the scheme entail. So the odd-even scheme, as the name itself describes, since it will be implemented from November 4th to November 15th, so on the first day, numbers, people having vehicles that end with odd or even digits, say odd digits, would be allowed to travel on Delhi roads. Similarly, the next day, people having vehicles which end with even digits, say 2, 4, 6, 8, will be allowed to commute on Delhi roads, so on and so forth. In fact, there are already memes that are going viral on Twitter. A lot of people are even saying that this will perhaps only entail for about 12 days, including weekends. So perhaps people could actually bear, with this for about 5 days discomfort as far as traveling, to their workplaces or other such places is concerned. The first question I have is from Rakesh, who asked that, will there be any exceptions in this? Well, while the government hasn't specifically addressed that question today in the press conference, I'd like to mention that earlier in 2016, there were certain exceptions for VIPs in the national capital, including politicians and Supreme Court judges who were let away from this, even single women drivers, as well as, if I remember correctly, I think women drivers who had children below the age of 12 in them in cars were exempted from this, and the scheme would be valid from, say, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Delhi roads. So that's as far as the exceptions last time were concerned. We're yet to receive a confirmation about what will be the case this year. Regina has another question which says, is the timing of the announcement a bit of a coincidence given its Diwali season? Regina, that's right. The Chief Minister, as I pointed out earlier, did cite that since they had invited a couple of suggestions from the public about how to address pollution levels in the national capital, which are always a concern, especially around Diwali season, and since the pollution levels also dip in winter. And also this is the time in November where stubble burning is a concern in the neighboring cities and states of Delhi. While the Chief Minister clearly stated that while Punjab and Delhi would like to handle the issue collectively, they didn't want to let this to continue happen. In fact, as far as Diwali is concerned, they're also planning to organize a mega laser show one day ahead of Diwali, and several masks, the N95 masks, will be on sale starting October, free of cost. So these are some of the things that they have been talking about in terms of as far as Diwali is concerned. I have another question, just bear with me, I'll just read that out. Apurva asks, what is the government's reasoning for introducing this again? Are they taking any other special measures to curb pollution, or is this the only step? Well, as I pointed out earlier, Apurva, the government has cited a government survey, also several suggestions that they had pointed out. They say 81% of the responses that they received from the general public were in favor of this scheme. They had also cited cited a survey back in 2016 where they said that soon after the scheme was implemented twice in January and April, there were a lot of people who were in favor of it, and they said that perhaps this would be a good time to reintroduce the scheme. Well, yes, no, sorry, this isn't the only measure that they're taking to curb pollution increasing pollution levels. There are several other issues as well. There are several other points that they're also keeping in mind. In fact, they will be appointing a minimum of 2 environment marshals per ward this time to check such waste burnings. They're also collaborating with the Resident Welfare Association in different parts of Delhi, who can be perhaps the eyes and ears of the government on the ground in an attempt to curb, say, local sources of pollution. And any individual will be challened and heavy penalties will be levied. In fact, this also reminds me that there will also be a penalty for those who do not adhere to the odd-even policy. Last time there was a fine of 2,000 which was levied for anyone violating the policy, and the same will be followed this year as well. I'm sorry, coming back to Apurva's question, certain other measures that I do have noted down which were addressed by the government officials during the press conference here is that the Delhi government will take a strict view of pollution hotspots, and they're also appointing a CS level committee that will undertake weekly reviews of hotspot action plans and ensure that pollution levels in those particular hotspots do not rise. They also mentioned intensive use of water sprinklers, which shall be undertaken for all major roads to ensure minimum pollution due to road dust. They even cited a recent audit by Terry, which flagged that existing 56 road sweeping machines operated by Delhi's municipal bodies were being used under 50% of their capacity and only in one shift. So I think this is one of the reasons they want to work closely with the MCDs to address this issue. Another question that I have is from Rakesh, who's asking that there were several studies that were conducted by independent organizations which spoke of what exactly came of the odd-even policy, whether it was successful or not earlier when Delhi implemented it. Well, yes, that's one of the most important questions, and I did want to address that as we proceed. Like I said, there were mixed reviews. A lot of people felt that it did lead to an increase in congestion and perhaps did not really reduce the pollution levels as much as was expected. Perhaps I'd like to read out or refer to a couple of studies that were conducted at that point to specifically let you know which were those studies and what exactly did they mention. One such study was by the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago and Harvard University. They had found reductions in pollutants in the afternoon hours in Delhi from, say, January to 1st to 15, which was the first phase of the odd-even policy in the national capital. There was another study which was the evaluation of the effects of the 15-day odd-even scheme in Delhi, a preliminary report which was conducted by researchers at the Transportation Research and Injury Prevention Program at IIT Delhi. This one in particular found vehicle speeds increasing from 11 a.m. during the first phase of the scheme. Maximum increase recorded was 9%, although the average speed dipped marginally in some locations between 6 a.m. and 11 a.m. The study also found high compliance with the rule. There was another study as well, which was conducted by the Poverty Action Lab South Asia and supported by the International Growth Center, which compared the two versions of the scheme and found consistent impacts over both rounds, which was the compliance was high and there was a certain decrease in congestion. So as I pointed out, I think a lot of mixed reviews are there, wherein certain people said that perhaps it would be fruitful, while others felt that perhaps it wasn't the best idea to address it in a place like New Delhi. Also, it's interesting, another point that I'd like to add is this perhaps module has been borrowed from China, where the odd-even policy was first implemented. And while perhaps the success rate has been more there, since the public transport, is more in quantity and perhaps people are more disciplined in that sense. However, that continues to be an issue in Delhi, since we do not, in fact, this was also, I cannot recall the study that I referred to a while back, but another study specifically pointed out that there wasn't enough public transport in Delhi to handle such an issue, because obviously if the odd and even policy is followed, this would lead to a a decrease in plying of private vehicles in the national capital, which means that people would rely much more on the public transport, be it auto rickshaws, be it the metro. And I can't help but highlight that this also interestingly coincides with the free metro ride scheme and free bus ride scheme, which is being introduced by Kejriwal's AAP government in the national capital. One of it will take off on October 29th. So obviously a large number of people here will shift to metros, will shift to the metro, which could perhaps face overcrowding because of this. The Metro Phase 4 project has also been getting delayed for various reasons. The Supreme Court, which is the apex court, had also pulled up the Delhi government recently, saying not to stall the process, so that so that there is enough room for people who do apply by the metro as well as other modes of public transport. I would like to add that certain AAP critics and opposition members have also pointed out that perhaps there is certain politics to play in this particular announcement, as well as I think it's a fact well known that the auto rickshaw drivers in this particular community also formulates a large part of the vote bank of Arvind Kejriwal's government. So while perhaps they will benefit from this move, what will come of the rest of the population is something we'll only know with time. I do have some other questions as well. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to see. Is there any, Mohana asks, is there any research proving that this policy actually brings down pollution levels? Mohana, I think I already answered your question a while back. As I said, there have been mixed reviews. The IIT Delhi team actually said that, perhaps it didn't really reduce the levels in so many places. However, there was a combined study by IIT and IIM which said that in certain areas, which included Shalimar Bagh, Greater Kailash and Navdarjag, where perhaps the dip in pollution levels was about 10 to 11%, relatively more in the rest of Delhi, where it was a marginal 2 to 3%. So as I said, there have been various research and studies that have been conducted on this, and there has been a mixed perhaps feedback that has come on this issue. And what will happen this time is perhaps something we'll know in another month's time from now. I think that's it for now. We will be tracking the issue closely, especially once once the scheme actually goes live in November. This is Anisha Bedi for ThePrint. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.